"You'll regret this," Barbara screamed when my wife refused to pay the absurd $90 HOA fine. But here's the twist. When the cops showed up, they stepped back. Why? Because my wife is not who you think. The ending will make Barbara wish she'd never called. Can you guess who she really is? Don't miss it. You won't believe what happens next. 3 months ago, Amy and I moved into 421 Willow Court. Beautiful house, needed work, but the price was too good to pass up. The sellers seemed desperate to get out, practically shoving the keys at us at closing. "Fresh start," Amy said, squeezing my hand as we signed. She'd just been promoted to a government job she was oddly vague about. New job, new neighborhood. What could go wrong? Famous last words, right? The first week was perfect. We unpacked, met a few neighbors, and started settling in. Then Barbara Garcia introduced herself. I was fixing the mailbox when she power walked over, clipboard in hand, mid-50s, highlighted hair, the type who definitely owns live, laugh, love signs. "Welcome to Maplewood," she said with a smile that showed teeth, but no warmth. "I'm Barbara, HOA president. I like to greet new homeowners personally." She said it like she was doing us a favor, but her eyes were already combing our property like a predator. "Nice to meet you, Larry," I replied, trying to match her fake enthusiasm. Her gaze tightened on the house. "This is a special property," she said. "The previous owners were," she trailed off. "Well, I hope you'll take better care of it." That sounded strange. Something wrong with the previous owners? I asked. Her smile stiffened. "Let's just say they didn't respect the rules. Their negligence had consequences." She tapped her clipboard. "I have your welcome packet, 300 pages of HOA guidelines. I've highlighted the important parts." That night, Amy flipped through the packet, eyebrows rising. "Listen to this. Vehicles must be parked facing east to ensure a uniform appearance." Who writes these rules? Apparently Barbara does. Amy went quiet. What did she say about the previous owners? Just that they broke rules and faced consequences. No details, but she immediately opened her laptop. "I'm going to look into this house's history." 2 hours later, she closed the computer, looking shaken. The Andersons, a family of 4. They lived here 6 years until their daughter Emma had an accident. What kind of accident? Severe allergic reaction. An ambulance couldn't get through because someone had parked across their driveway. The delay. Amy shook her head. Emma survived, but with permanent complications. The Andersons moved out 3 months later. That's awful. Who blocked the driveway? I asked. The report didn't say. But Barbara filed a dozen HOA violations against the Andersons in the 2 months after the accident. Grass height, trash placement, and even unauthorized modifications, including fines related to a wheelchair ramp. I stared. She fined them for a wheelchair ramp. $800 plus daily penalties. Amy's face went dark. "I think we know why this house was priced to sell." The next morning, I was measuring for new house numbers when Barbara appeared again. The woman had ninja stealth. "Morning, Larry. I see you're making improvements. You did submit the architectural modification form, right? Any external changes require approval. Section 43. She made a note. "I'll let this slide since you knew, but next time there could be fines." I asked about the previous owners. Her face went cold. They were difficult people. Constant violations. They didn't understand that rules exist for everyone's safety. Her knuckles whitened around the clipboard. That poor child's accident could have been prevented if everyone had followed parking rules. After she left, I texted Amy. Barbara just blamed the Andersons' daughter's accident on someone parking the wrong way. Amy answered immediately. "Keep her talking when she comes by. I'm digging into this." That evening I found Amy surrounded by papers, deep in research. The Andersons tried to file a complaint against the HOA after the accident. It was dismissed. Want to know who was on the review board? Barbara. Barbara was president, and a councilman named Bradley sat on the board too. And get this, Barbara had been trying to buy 421 Willow Court for 2 years. The Andersons refused to sell. The implications hit me. She wanted this house, the one where a little girl almost died because of an HOA issue. Amy's look grew darker. "Larry, I think Barbara was more involved than she's letting on." As Amy pulled up more records, I realized she wasn't just curious. She was building case, and Barbara had no idea. Later she said softly, "I just found the police report from the Anderson incident. You're not going to believe whose name is all over it." Over the next 2 weeks, Barbara escalated, like she was following a script. Daily courtesy visits pointing out violations, grass height, flower choices, even the angle of our garden hose. Not kidding. A provision about proper hose storage angles. Amy started documenting everything, photos, videos, recordings. "She's building to something," Amy said, organizing files. "This isn't random harassment. Why don't we just file a complaint?" I asked. "Who with?" "She runs the HOA." Amy showed me her findings. 6 families had moved out in 3 years after long conflicts with Barbara, all from our section of the street, the same area that could see what happened to Emma Anderson. Barbara had been trying to buy our house for 2 years. The Andersons refused. It clicked. She was trying to erase witnesses or control the narrative. Amy played a video of a community meeting. Barbara stood at the podium talking about safety, repeatedly referencing the incident as a cautionary tale about following rules. She'd recast herself as the hero. "She's making herself the hero," Amy said. "We're going to find out what her role really was." That Thursday, things got interesting. I was working at home when the doorbell rang. Barbara, this time with backup, a man in an expensive suit. "Larry, this is Councilman Bradley," she announced. He had the handshake of a used car salesman. "Heard there have been some compliance issues." Barbara asked me to mediate. Compliance issues? We'd lived here 3 weeks. 26 violations in 3 weeks, she said, producing a binder, color-coded tabs, photos of our trash cans from multiple angles, timestamps of Amy's car parked the wrong way. It was absurd. Bradley smiled smoothly. "Barbara runs a tight ship. It keeps property values up. I'm sure we can resolve this." She flipped to a laminated page, the fine schedule. First violation, warning. Second, $30. Third, $60. Fourth through 10th, $90 each. "You're at," she calculated with pleasure, $1,140. "I'm not paying $1,100 for imaginary violations," I said. "They're documented," Bradley replied. Barbara offered payment plans, or she suggested with a glint we could sell. "I could connect you with buyers." There was the real play. "We're not selling," I said. Her smile went predatory. Bradley added, "There's also a special assessment. 4 road repairs, $2,000 per household due in 30 days. The board voted last night. Let me guess, the board is just you, Bradley, and whoever else you control." Barbara's face darkened. "Careful, Larry. Slander is actionable." After they left, I called Amy. $1,100 in fines and a $2,000 special assessment. Bradley came as muscle. "Did you get on video?" she asked. "Every second." "Good. Don't pay anything yet. I'm coming home early." That evening, Amy reviewed the footage intently. Bradley was nervous. He kept glancing at Barbara. She paused the video on his hand, wedding ring tan, but no ring. "Recent divorce," she noted. "Desperate people make bad allies." "This might take a few days," she said, pulling out her phone. "What's your job exactly?" "This feels like more than government admin work." She kissed my forehead. "Trust me. Let Barbara think she's winning. When she gets cocky, that's when we move." That night, I woke to find Amy's side of the bed empty. Through the window, I saw her in the driveway talking on the phone at 3 a.m. "Yes, I understand the risks," she said. "But if Barbara Garcia finds out who I really am before Tuesday, no, she can't know. Not until she calls the police herself." Tuesday morning came with storm clouds. Amy took a half day for paperwork and was in the garage organizing files when Barbara pulled up in her Prius. "She's here," I told Amy. Amy came out wearing jeans and an old Police Academy t-shirt. "Stay inside, but keep your phone recording," she said. "Why would I need to?" I asked. "Trust me." I stood at the living room window as Barbara marched up the driveway, waving a yellow notice like a battle flag. Helen from across the street was watering roses. Other neighbors suddenly had things to do at their mailboxes. Barbara's voice carried. "Amy Scott, I need payment immediately." "Good morning, Barbara," Amy answered calmly. "Don't play games. $90 right now." Barbara thrust the fine notice forward. Grass height, mailbox color, Directional parking. All documented. I'm not paying this. Excuse me. Barbara's voice rose. These fines are legally binding. No, they're not. Your HOA charter expired 2 years ago. You have no legal authority. That's a lie. Bradley says what you pay him to say. I'm not paying $90 or $90. Period. Barbara's hands shook as she pulled out her phone. Then you leave me no choice. I'm calling the police. Please do, Amy said. Barbara stabbed at her phone. 911. Yes, this is Barbara Garcia, HOA president at Maplewood Estates. I need officers at 421 Willow Court. A resident is refusing to pay HOA fines and is threatening. Amy spoke loudly enough for the dispatcher to hear. I never threatened you. Barbara hung up, triumphant. You'll pay the $90 plus legal fees when they arrest you. Amy leaned against her car. Barbara, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. More neighbors had gathered. Is that a threat? Barbara shrieked. It's a fact, Amy said. 10 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up. Officer Thompson stepped out, tired. Barbara rushed forward. This woman is refusing to pay $90 in legally binding HOA fines. Thompson sighed. Ma'am, that's a civil matter. We don't arrest people over HOA disputes. But she's being hostile. She threatened me. Barbara insisted. I told her she was making a mistake calling you. Amy replied evenly. Is that a threat? Thompson looked between them. Ladies, can we resolve this without? Barbara stamped her foot. I want her arrested. She owes $90. Thompson pulled out his notepad. For what exactly? Barbara waved her papers. Grass height, wrong mailbox color, parking the wrong direction. Thompson's expression shifted. You called 911 over grass height. He muttered about standards. If you won't do your job, I'll call your supervisor. Amy stepped forward. Officer Thompson, I need you to see something. She opened her wallet slowly and flipped it. Thompson's eyes widened. Chief Scott. The crowd gasped. Barbara staggered back. You're the new chief of police? 6 weeks on the job? Amy's voice carried across the yard. And Barbara, you just filed a false police report. What? No. I reported a real crime. Barbara cried. You reported a civil dispute as an emergency, claiming I threatened you. The 911 recording will show no threats. That's a misdemeanor. Barbara's legs wobbled. This is entrapment. No, Barbara. This is consequence. Amy turned to Thompson. Mrs. Garcia, are you still insisting I pay this $90 fine? Yes. She owes it. For the record, this HOA charter expired 2 years ago. These fines are fraudulent. You're operating an illegal enterprise. That's not true, Barbara stammered. Amy produced documents. Bradley, who you been paying $20,000 to look the other way? Bank records. The crowd gasped. And why have you targeted houses that could see where Emma Anderson nearly died 3 years ago? Helen stepped forward. Barbara, we all remember you there that day. You said a delivery truck blocked the driveway. It was a delivery truck, Barbara insisted. Then why have you spent 3 years forcing every witness out? Amy asked. The Williams family, the Johnsons, all had views. All got massive fines until they moved. Barbara was shaking. This is harassment. I want a lawyer. Good idea, Amy replied. Because you're going to need one. Amy nodded to Thompson. For now, Mrs. Garcia is free to go. But don't leave town. Don't access any HOA computers or bank accounts. Consider yourself under investigation. You can't do this. I just did. Barbara faltered. Thompson, document that Mrs. Garcia called 911 for a civil matter and filed a false report claiming threats that didn't occur. Yes, Chief, he said. Barbara lurched toward her car, then turned back. This isn't over. I have powerful friends. You'll be sorry. That sounded like a real threat. I heard that, Thompson said. Barbara sped off, peeling out. The crowd slowly dispersed, everyone talking at once. Helen approached us. Is it true about the charter? She asked. Every word, I told her. Meeting tomorrow night. Spread the word. As neighbors filtered back in, I finally stepped outside. Amy grinned. Surprise, she said. Sorry I couldn't tell you sooner. I wanted to see how far Barbara would push things. So what now? I asked. Now. Amy smiled. Now Barbara panics. Panicked people make terrible decisions. Her phone buzzed. She read the text, and her face hardened. Speaking of bad decisions, Barbara just accessed something she shouldn't have, something that could wreck more than my reputation. What would you do if your HOA president was secretly your chief target? I asked. I watched my wife play chess while Barbara thought it was checkers. Drop a comment. Have you ever watched someone walk right into their own trap? Wednesday morning arrived in chaos. Barbara hadn't slept. Her neighborhood social feed told the story. Corruption in the police department. The new chief targeting innocent citizens. Who is Amy Scott really? By breakfast the block was buzzing. Amy scrolled the posts, amused. She's predictable. When cornered, she attacks. Aren't you worried about the posts? About what she'll do next? I asked. That's why I have Thompson watching her house, Amy said, then added, Helen called. Barbara's going door to door with a petition. Wants me removed as chief. Let her. Amy replied when I related. Every signature is another witness to her harassment. By noon, Barbara had escalated. She launched a website titled The Truth About Amy Scott. It looked professional, expensive, and mixed fact with fiction so neatly it almost passed for journalism. Yes, Amy had worked in Denver. Yes, her partner Tom Rodriguez had died. But Barbara framed Amy as a monster who drove a cop to suicide. This is slander, I said. It's worse, Amy said. She used my personnel file. That's illegal access to law enforcement databases. Federal crime. How did she get that? Bradley has to be involved, I guessed. Amy picked up her phone. Thompson, see the site? Is Bradley at City Hall? Good. Bring him in for questioning. That afternoon, Barbara hosted a concerned citizens meeting at the community center, promising shocking revelations about the new police chief. You're not going, I said as Amy pulled on a uniform. Of course I am. This is exactly what I've been waiting for. The community center was packed. Barbara set up a projector and placed copies of her website on every chair. Thank you for coming, she began. Many of you were confused by yesterday. I'm here to tell the truth. She advanced slides with Amy's photo and selectively edited headlines from Denver. Why would a Denver cop come here? She asked, insinuating motives. From the back of the room, Amy spoke. To investigate corruption. Every head turned. She walked down the aisle in full uniform. Please continue your presentation, Mrs. Garcia. You're doing my job for me. Barbara's hand shook. You can't be here. This is a private meeting in a public building using illegally obtained documents. Personnel files aren't public record, Amy said. How did you get them, Barbara? That's none of your business, Barbara snapped. Actually, it is, Amy said. Accessing law enforcement databases without authorization is a federal crime. So, is identity theft, which you committed when you used my social security number to run background checks. Amy tapped her phone and played a recording. Bradley's voice filled the room. Barbara paid me $5,000 to get the files. Said she needed leverage. I used my admin access from the Public Safety Committee. He sounded remorseful. Barbara's clicker dropped. That's entrapment, she sputtered. No, that's confession, Amy said. She switched slides to financial records. This is Barbara's HOA account. $480,000 collected in 2 years. Want to know where it went? The crowd leaned in. Payments to her recommended buyers, to contractors who never did the work, and large transfers to herself. $60,000 in management fees for an HOA that doesn't legally exist. Barbara screamed. Those are private records. Actually, Amy said calmly, they're evidence seized under warrant this morning while you were busy making websites. Amy turned to the room. Every family Barbara targeted had one thing in common. They witnessed her blocking the Anderson driveway during Emma's medical emergency. Stop it, Barbara hissed and backed toward the exit. 14 minutes, Amy continued. That's how long Barbara spent writing a citation for a garden hose while Emma Anderson fought to breathe. The silence was crushing. They deserved. Barbara started, then realized what she'd said. They deserved what, Barbara? Amy asked quietly. Barbara bolted for the door, but Officer Thompson stepped in her path. Going somewhere, Mrs. Garcia? He asked. This is a false arrest. I'll sue. You're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, accessing law enforcement databases, identity theft, and conspiracy. Thompson said as he cuffed her. Barbara screamed to the crowd. You'll regret this. Without me, property values will plummet. The neighborhood will turn to chaos. No, Barbara, Helen stood up. We needed neighbors. You gave us fear. They marched Barbara out as she continued to shout. Amy addressed the crowd. Let's talk about getting your money back. The meeting ended, but then Amy's phone rang. She listened. Her face went white. What do you mean she has a dead man switch, she said. Check your email. Right now. My phone was already buzzing. Dozens of subject lines made my blood run cold. What your neighbors don't want you to know, full documentation attached. By 3 a.m. Thursday, our inboxes erupted. Hundreds of emails from Barbara's HOA account spilled private secrets, affairs, bankruptcies, rehab histories, alleged city corruption. Helen sobbed into the phone. He posted about Robert's affair, she said. It was 5 years ago. We worked through it. The grandchildren. Neighbors called one after another. Marriages trembling. Reputation shredded. People threatened to move to escape the humiliation. I felt sick watching the neighborhood shred itself. Amy, you have to stop this, I said. I'm stopping it by letting her finish, she replied. The FBI put monitoring software on her account. Every email she sends is being tracked, archived, and traced. She's building our case by documenting her own crimes in real time. By dawn, the damage was staggering. The neighborhood feed exploded with accusations and recriminations. News vans were already arriving. Barbara hadn't only burned bridges, she'd napalmed the entire block. Then she went live on social media. Haggard, manic, still wearing yesterday's suit. Her makeup ran. Her eyes looked wild. Smeared makeup, hair wild, eyes glittering with the kind of desperate energy that comes right before a complete breakdown. Good morning, Maplewood. Barbara said with a forced cheer no one believed. Did you enjoy learning the truth about your neighbors? There's more. So much more. Comments poured in, mostly outrage, but she pressed on like a captain going down with her ship. Amy Scott thinks she's so clever. Let me tell you about our perfect police chief. She waved printed pages at the camera. Denver, 2019. Officer Tom Rodriguez, dead by suicide after Amy Scott destroyed his career. She's a killer, a career destroyer, and you welcomed her into our community. Turn off, I muttered to Amy, unable to watch Barbara's unraveling. No, let her talk, Amy replied coldly. She's confessing to federal crimes live on stream. Every word is evidence. Barbara ran it on, voice rising with each accusation. I have everything, every document, every secret. I protected this neighborhood from people like her, from chaos, She stopped when someone appeared in the background. Helen. The comments exploded as viewers realized what was happening. Barbara Garcia, Helen said calmly, cutting through the chaos. You made me dig up my husband's ashes because the roses at his memorial were the wrong variety. You stood there with your clipboard while I sobbed, digging up the man I loved for 50 years. You're evil. Barbara spun, nearly dropping her phone. Get out. You're trespassing. No, Helen said firmly. She faced the camera, tears streaking her cheeks, but dignity intact. These people deserve to know. She fined me $800 while I was grieving. Made me tear out Robert's memorial garden. Claimed it violated code 47B. It did violate. Barbara started, but Helen cut her off. There is no code 47B. Helen shouted with decades of buried fury. I checked. You made it up, just like you made up half the violations. More neighbors began filing into Barbara's house through the open door, her victims arriving one by one. You fined us for our daughter's birthday balloons, another said. So they were the wrong shade of pink. Made us repaint our house 4 times, 4 different shades of beige. You charged us $300 for parking in our own driveway, another neighbor added. Barbara stumbled back as the crowd filled her living room, phone shaking as she tried to keep streaming. This is trespassing. I'll call the police. Please do, Amy said, stepping into the frame with perfect timing. I'd love to document victims confronting their abuser. The live stream captured Barbara's the complete breakdown. Surrounded by the people she had terrorized, her carefully polished image collapsed in real time before thousands of viewers. You don't understand. Barbara screamed, tears streaming down her face. Without rules, without structure, this neighborhood will collapse. Property values. Shut up about property values, someone shouted. You let a child almost die for property values. I was protecting. Barbara tried, but Amy's voice cut through. No, you were protecting yourself. From the guilt of what you did to Emma Anderson. Every family you punished was a witness. Every fine was hush money. Every rule was a wall you built around your guilt. Barbara turned to the camera. For a moment, the mask dropped. Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I blocked their driveway. Yes, I heard them screaming. But I had already started writing the citation. You can't just stop mid-write. There are procedures. There are rules. The admission hung heavy. Even the live stream comments went silent. You let a child almost die, Helen said slowly, voice thick with disgust. Because you wouldn't stop writing a citation. The rules matter, Barbara whispered, sounding small and broken. Barbara Garcia, Amy declared, you're under arrest again, this time for cyber terrorism, wire fraud, and violating bail. I'm in my own home, Barbara protested weakly. Broadcasting crimes, harassing victims, accessing HOA computers you were ordered not to touch, Amy replied. She nodded to Thompson. Take her in. And this time, no bail. As Thompson cuffed Barbara for the second time in 48 hours, she looked at the camera one last time. Her eyes were wild, desperate, but strangely clear. Check your property values in 6 months, she spat. You'll beg me to come back. It'll be chaos without me. Chaos. The stream cut off, but not before thousands saw Barbara Garcia finally face justice. The view count soared past 10,000. She'd meant to destroy her neighbors, but instead destroyed herself publicly. My phone buzzed. A text from Amy, federal prosecutors taking over. She just guaranteed herself 20 years minimum. I looked around at the neighbors leaving Barbara's house. They were hurt by the exposed secrets, furious about the spying, but united in relief that her reign was over. Maybe chaos was exactly what we needed. At least chaos was honest. As Barbara was led away in cuffs, Helen clutched my arm. Larry, there's something you need to know. Something about Amy. She glanced around, lowering her voice. Barbara wasn't wrong about Denver, but she only had half the story. The other half, she pulled an old newspaper clipping from her purse. Your wife isn't just a police chief. She's been hunting people like Barbara for years. And there's a reason the FBI is really here. Just found out my wife has been running a federal sting operation, and I'm still processing it. That phone call changed everything I thought I knew. Have you ever discovered your spouse was living a completely different life? Comment below. I need to know I'm not the only one. Friday morning broke like an action movie. Helicopters thundered overhead. Not traffic choppers, but black federal birds circling like mechanical vultures. The windows rattled with their rhythm. Amy's side of the bed was cold. She'd been gone for hours. I pulled back the curtains. Black SUVs lined the streets. Agents in FBI windbreakers moving with military precision. My phone buzzed. A text from Amy. Stay inside. Watch the news. I flipped on Channel 9. Breaking news. Massive FBI raid. Corruption probe rocks Maplewood. Reporters stood in front of Barbara's house as agents carried out boxes of evidence. Another text. Check Barbara's website. I pulled it up, but instead of Barbara's lies, the page showed a single message. This domain has been seized by the FBI as part of an ongoing investigation into wire fraud, racketeering, and corruption. The news split-screen live raids across the city. Bradley's house. Councilman let out in cuffs, still in pajamas. City Hall. Agents hauling out filing cabinets. The HOA management company. Even the real estate firm Barbara used. This wasn't just one HOA president. It was a network. Then Amy appeared on screen, in full uniform, at a federal podium flanked by FBI officials. She looked exhausted, but steady. Good morning. I'm Chief Amy Scott, working with the FBI's Public Corruption Unit. For the past 8 weeks, we've been investigating a criminal enterprise using HOAs as fronts for racketeering, extortion, and money laundering. The chart behind her looked like a spiderweb. Barbara wasn't acting alone. She was part of a network spanning 6 HOAs across 3 counties. stealing $2.4 million over 5 years. Reporters shouted, but Amy silenced them with a raised hand. Corrupt HOA presidents targeted families with excessive fines. Forced sales went to predetermined buyers, who funneled kickbacks to HOA officials and their city enablers. My jaw dropped. To date, Amy continued, we've arrested 12 people. 4 HOA presidents, 3 city officials, 2 developers, and 3 property managers. More arrests are coming. What about Barbara Garcia? One reporter called. Mrs. Garcia's case is unique, Amy said, eyes hard. She didn't just steal money. She weaponized an entire neighborhood's trust to cover her role in a child's near death. She silenced witnesses, corrupted officials, and tried to destroy a community with stolen private data. That makes her crimes especially heinous. The broadcast cut to Barbara in federal custody. No bail this time. My phone rang. Helen again. Larry, the FBI is at my door. They want to interview me. Cooperate, I said. Tell them everything. Throughout the morning, agents interviewed neighbors. Every fine, every threat, every forced sale documented. Barbara's files revealed years of surveillance. Private data she had no right to. The violations were staggering. By noon, the feds traced hundreds of thousands more. Offshore accounts Barbara had hidden for an escape she'd never take. Amy came home briefly, exhausted but energized. I stared at her. 8 weeks. You've been running a federal investigation for 8 weeks. Longer, she admitted. DOJ approached me in Denver. Barbara was already on their radar. Moving here, becoming chief, all part of the op. So our marriage was just cover? I asked, more bitter than I meant. No, she said firmly, cup in my face. Our marriage was the only real thing. I couldn't tell you everything, but I never lied about us. What now? I asked quietly. Now? Barbara faces life. The Andersons are suing. Other HOAs are being dissolved. And every penny stolen gets returned with interest. She smiled, a real smile at last. The Attorney General flies in this afternoon. That day, Operation Neighborhood Watch was announced, a nationwide crackdown on corrupt HOAs, modeled after Maplewood. Barbara's mugshot became the face of HOA corruption, plastered everywhere. Memes, documentaries, late-night jokes. The internet broke when Barbara, in federal custody, screamed at cameras, "Property values. What about property values? Without me, chaos." It became an instant meme. Auto-tunes, t-shirts, challenges. That evening, the neighborhood threw a block party, no permits required. The HOA was dead. The joy was raw, electric, like we were finally free. Helen raised a cup of wine. To Amy, who saved us from the tyrant with a clipboard. To us. Amy corrected, raising her own. For standing up. For trusting each other, AG the party carried on. Children playing well past approved hours, and music blasting far beyond acceptable limits. I spotted Amy standing a little apart, watching neighbors laugh and reconnect. For the first time in years, people were speaking without fear, sharing stories without worrying about retaliation. Any regrets? I asked, slipping my arm around her. None. Well, one. She leaned against me. What could you possibly regret after all this? I always wanted to paint our mailbox purple, just to see Barbara's face. Amy's grin lit up the thought. So paint it purple. Who's going to stop you? I laughed at the beauty of that freedom, and Amy joined me, her laughter blending into the joyful chaos around us. You know what? You're right. Tomorrow morning, the purplest purple I can find. We stood together, watching our neighborhood heal. Kids played the games Barbara once fined them for. Dogs ran off leash. Music and laughter filled the air. Chaos, just like Barbara had predicted, but it was beautiful, human chaos. The kind that comes when people are finally free. As the celebration buzzed on, my phone rang. Unknown number. Amy gave a slight nod. Answer it. Mr. Scott. The voice was cold, professional. The kind that makes your spine straighten. This is Assistant Director Smith from the FBI. We need to discuss your wife's real assignment, the one she hasn't told you about. Barbara Garcia was never the main target. She was just the key to something much bigger. Tell me, how much do you really know about why you moved to Maplewood? Monday morning came with the kind of finality that reminds you some stories don't end happily, just end. At the federal courthouse downtown, justice loomed in marble and authority. Barbara Garcia was about to face judgment. Not in a suburban HOA meeting where she wielded unchecked power, but before a federal judge who'd seen corruption in all its forms. She looked smaller in her prison orange, as though she'd aged a decade in days. The sharp power suit was gone, replaced by custody-issued clothing that stripped away every illusion of control. No clipboard to clutch, no rules to bark, no neighbors to intimidate. Just a broken woman whose empire of fear had crumbled around her. The defendant faces 93 federal counts, the prosecutor declared, his voice echoing through the courtroom, including racketeering, wire fraud, cyber terrorism, identity theft, and obstruction of justice. Barbara's court-appointed lawyer, her assets long since frozen, shuffled nervously, clearly overwhelmed by the enormity of her crimes. How does the defendant plead? The judge asked, peering over his glasses. Not guilty, Barbara whispered. Speak up, please. Not guilty, she repeated, louder this time. But the words fell flat, hollow even to her own ears. The prosecutor laid out the case in brutal precision. The $480,000 in illegal HOA fines, the Anderson incident that drove out 6 families, the systemic harassment, corrupted officials, and her desperate cyber attacks when cornered. Another $300,000 hidden in offshore accounts. Your Honor, the prosecutor concluded, Mrs. Garcia didn't just steal money. She weaponized an entire community's trust. She turned neighbors into enemies to cover up her role in a child's near death. She corrupted city officials, destroyed families, and when exposed, tried to obliterate the whole community with stolen personal data. This wasn't mere corruption. It was a reign of terror disguised as suburban governance. When Barbara took the stand for allocution, she clung to her twisted worldview. I was protecting property values, she insisted, her voice rising with self-righteous desperation. Maintaining standards. If people had just followed the rules. Mrs. Garcia, the judge cut in, clearly done with her delusions. A child nearly died because you valued a citation over human life. Then you spent years destroying anyone who bore witness. You corrupted officials, stole hundreds of thousands, and tried to wipe out an entire neighborhood. This was never about property values. This was about your pathological need for control. The rules matter, Barbara shouted, her voice cracking. Without compassion, rules become cruelty, the judge replied coldly. And you, Mrs. Garcia, have been exceptionally cruel. The sentence fell like a hammer. 25 years in federal prison. No parole for 15. Full restitution. Every cent of the $780,000 stolen. A lifetime ban from any position of authority. She'd never run so much as a bake sale again. As U.S. Marshals prepared to escort her out, Barbara turned to the gallery of neighbors watching her downfall. Her eyes burned with desperation. You'll see, she screamed. Property values will crash. The neighborhood will collapse. You'll beg for me back. The heavy doors shut on her final prophecy. But her words lingered like a curse, or maybe a promise. Outside the courthouse, Helen spoke softly, her voice carrying for everyone. She still doesn't get it. It was never about property values. It was about people, about community, about living without fear of a clipboard at your door. The media swarmed, but most neighbors just wanted to go home and start healing. And Maplewood did change. Property values didn't fall, they rose. Turns out, buyers pay more for a place where neighbors support each other instead of spying. Real estate agents began pitching Maplewood as the community that stood up to corruption, where neighbors were friends, not informants. Even the Andersons returned. Emma, now 13, walked with a slight limp but held her head high. The community that once failed her rallied this time, raising $50,000 in a week for her care. Every Halloween, Maplewood went all out with decorations. No restrictions, no fines, no complaints. Someone always hung a sign, "Chaos welcome here." It became our unofficial motto, even covering a local news feature calling us the neighborhood that chose freedom over fear. And every year, someone would ask with a grin. But what about property values? The laughter that followed came from shared pain turned into shared strength. Because we had learned what Barbara never could. A neighborhood's worth isn't in its rules or uniformity. It's in its humanity. The FBI investigation Amy helped launch rippled nationwide. Dozens of corrupt HOAs exposed. Hundreds of petty tyrants dethroned. Barbara Garcia became a case study in real estate schools and a meme in pop culture. Don't be a Barbara entered the lexicon as a warning against letting power corrupt. But the true victory was smaller. Children drawing chalk art on sidewalks without fear. Gardens blooming wild. Mailboxes painted in whatever color brought joy. The freedom to simply be human. That night, as Amy and I prepared for bed, she held a sealed envelope stamped with the FBI seal. They told me to open it only after sentencing, she said, breaking it open with trembling fingers. Her face shifted from pale to stunned. Larry, Barbara has a daughter. She's been writing to her every week in prison, and she just applied to law school, specializing in HOA law. 5 years passed. Maplewood bloomed into a neighborhood of individuality and trust. I was planting our third garden gnome, a tacky frog Barbara would have hated, when a news alert froze me. Former HOA president released early from federal prison. Amy read the headline over my shoulder. Good behavior. Rehab programs. She served 5 of 8 years. Should we worry? I asked. No. Lifetime restrictions, probation, and a restraining order. She's persona non grata here. And Maplewood thrived. Diverse gardens, colorful mailboxes, and block parties instead of board meetings. Helen organized potlucks. Laughter filled the same hall where Barbara once ruled by fear. But then, one evening, under rainbow-speckled streetlights, a car with Illinois plates rolled in. Amy tensed. It was Barbara. 5 years had aged her harshly. Gray streaks, lines of guilt carved deep. She whispered, I know I'm violating the order. I just needed to see it before I leave town. She spoke of California, of a sister offering her work, of apologies, especially to the Andersons. Tears fell as she admitted the guilt that had haunted her. I became a monster I thought I was fighting. I'm sorry. It changes nothing, but I'm sorry. Amy's voice was steady, not cruel. Get help, Barbara. Real help. Barbara nodded, started her car, and left Maplewood behind. We never saw her again. The next morning, Emma jogged past, 16 now, strong, resilient, almost free of a limp. She waved cheerfully, training for track. I thought about second chances, about how guilt can rot or transform, about the strength of community. Our mailbox gleamed bright purple. Our gnome winked in the sunlight. Our neighborhood was free. Then my phone buzzed. A headline, Federal Judge Orders Retrial in Garcia Case. New evidence suggests entrapment. Amy stood in the doorway, badge and gun in hand. I know. Barbara's lawyer found something. Larry, we might have to move again. And just like that, Barbara got exactly what she deserved. Who could have imagined a $90 fine would lead here? The twist was so sharp, even the cops were left speechless. If you thought this story was wild, wait until you see what comes next. Justice isn't finished. We're just getting started. If you enjoyed this story, hit like. It helps echo stories keep sharing these tales of karma and payback. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next at Ein.